Hey everybody, Rodolfo here. So, I know what you're probably thinking. What do I mean by having WWDC is never coming back in the title of this video, since WWDC is definitely happening next week? Well, let me explain. So pre-pandemic, I was fortunate enough to be able to attend two WWDCs as a scholarship winner, even being lucky enough to be at the last one that they ever held in the previous format, which was in 2019. And for an iOS developer, spending a week at WWDC in person felt almost as good as a week at Disney World. And what I can tell you from the experience is that what we had since 2020 in the past few years is not the same, and it doesn't seem like what we had is ever coming back. So WWDC has always been a week-long event, starting on Monday with the keynote and going all the way to Friday. And for scholarship recipients, it actually started a little bit earlier with a scholar exclusive event on Sunday, the day before the keynote. The event would give you the chance to get to know better your fellow scholars. It would have a presentation usually on an Apple product, how it was conceived and developed, and you would have the chance to talk to Apple engineers, get to know their work, and even, take pictures and have brief interactions with higher up executives like Tim Cook or Craig Federighi. And it was just the perfect start to an amazing week. Then came the anticipation for the keynote itself, and then the rest of the week with the bash on Thursday night, serving as kind of a going away party before the last day. And it was usually a really fun party with free food, free drinks, and really nice concerts usually. I got to see Fall Out Boy and Weezer on my two bashes that I went to. But WWDC wasn't just about the partying either. It had the labs where you could get personalized, like in-person Apple engineer time to look at your apps and give you some help. It gave you the chance to meet people that you might not otherwise meet. Lunch was one of those cases where, because of the limited seating capacity, you might end up sitting with people for lunch that you never met before. And because everyone there is developing for Apple platforms, that usually sparked interesting conversations that, sparked ideas, job opportunities, and just an overall positive networking opportunity. And it wasn't even just about WWDC either, but because of WWDC, there were events happening all around the city in that week, like the Loop's Jim Dalrymple Beard Bash party, which would happen on Mondays, was really nice. Podcast episodes that were recorded live, like John Gruber's talk show and ATP and others. There was activity happening all around San Jose that was kind of tied to WWDC, and overall just a lot of interesting things to do and interesting people to meet. But then the pandemic came, in-person conferences were just not possible for a while, which gave birth to the online-only WWDC that we know today. Then last year they had a one-day event where mostly media and select people could watch the keynote from Apple Park, and this year following the same format with that keynote event plus a special event Monday night and a developer session and an Apple Park tour on Tuesday. Now, don't get me wrong, the online-only conference during the pandemic was definitely better than nothing at all, and I think that given the circumstances and the limitations of an online-only conference, I think that they did the best that they could do with forums, labs, and all of that. There is also the fact that unless you went as a scholar, a ticket to WWDC cost $1,600, and that coupled with travel expenses, hotels, along with the limited capacity of the convention center, limited the amount of people that could go enjoy it. While the online-only conference, on the other hand, is completely free and everyone around the world can attend and even schedule a remote lab session to get help from an Apple engineer for their app. So I do see the value in the inclusivity that the online conference brings, but I do think that you just can't replicate online how awesome the experience was for the in-person conference and the adjacent activities. And this one day at Apple Park thing that they've been doing since last year is no replacement. It's smaller in both scope and time, and it's way more limiting both in the capacity and in the sense that like I would fly from Brazil to California for a 1 week event and just, you know, spend some time there, but it just makes no sense financially to take a plane to go all the way there to watch a pre-recorded video with a bunch of other people, have an hour or two to, you know, do some networking and then come back, for example. My hope last year was that the one day at Apple Park keynote group watch thing was Apple dipping their toes into doing in-person events again to then bring back the regular version of WWDC this year. But with this year's announcements, it really does seem like what they want is quite the opposite. We've seen earlier this year conferences like CES and NAB and others bring back their regular formats, or at least as close as possible to it, and I really thought that Apple was going to be next, that when they announced WWDC that we might get the regular format back, since clearly the virus is no longer a concern when it comes to concerts, conferences, live sports, theme parks, and everything else. So it really seems to me that if Apple is not bringing back the regular WWDC this year, it's very likely that it is on purpose and that they are not planning to do so ever again. They can have their small self-contained meetup on keynote day to generate some press, while keeping the advantages of having a high production pre-recorded keynote with demos that won't fail live on stage, and, you know, without all the complexities of hosting a week-long in-person event. So I do understand what the advantages are for Apple, and in a way it makes sure that all efforts are concentrated on the online attendees, and you don't have a situation where you have to focus more on the live attendees and treat online ones as second-class citizens. Even though I do think that Apple could pull off a good in-person event with a good online option if it really wanted to, since it clearly now has experience with doing both. But I'll always be thankful that I got to experience what it was before, unlike the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser, which is closing before I have the chance to go on it. But yeah, I'll always cherish both times that I've been able to attend, and those are lifelong memories that, you know, I'll never forget. But just like how I'm a bit sad that I won't get to experience the Star Cruiser in my case, I'm also a bit sad that for other people, when it comes to the real WWDC, I don't think anyone will ever experience what it was ever again. But I want to hear from you guys in the comments. What do you guys think? Is WWDC never coming back in the format that it used to be? Do you prefer the online-only conference? Have you been to any of the previous in-person WWDCs? Have you been to the Star Cruiser? Let me know everything below in the comments, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.